Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aubrey. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today. So I have decided that this week we are going to continue my series of videos where I discuss my favorite books and book series. Specifically today we're going to continue talking about my favorite standalones. So I have the next set of 5 right here. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I have started a series of videos where I just, like I said, discuss my all-time favorite books and all-time favorite book series, and I'm doing some videos about standalones and some about series. I will link the first 2 videos down below in the description. So I've already done one on my first 5 favorite standalones and one on my first 5 favorite series, and I'm just going in alphabetical order, not in order of which ones I like more, which ones I like least, because I can't do that. I cannot make those decisions. And so we're just gonna go in alphabetical order. And as I come across new books that I am reading that become my favorites, they will be just added into the list and we will just slot them in as we go. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started because honestly, I am quite tired. I would really like to go and relax, maybe take a nap, I don't know. Also, my voice is not feeling very well right now, so we're gonna go ahead and get started so that we can make it through this video today. So the first one that I have for you guys is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaefer and Annie Barrows. This is a book that takes place just after the end of World War II. And I am going to have to look at names because I don't remember all of the names. But we follow our main character, Juliet, who is an author. She's recently become quite famous in England, and she receives a letter from one of the founding members of a group that call themselves the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. And they are apparently a group that formed on the island of Guernsey during the Nazi occupation of the island during World War II. And they basically tell Juliet that her book has had a profound impact on their lives. And so Juliet begins to exchange letters with the people from this society, and slowly grows to become closer and closer and closer to them and form this very, very deep connection as she learns about these people and about what they went through during the war and about their lives. And it's such a beautiful and touching story because I feel like so many World War II novels take place during the war, whereas this one, the focus is really on how people recover after tragedy, like war, and like something as horrific as an occupation. And, you know, the focus is not just on what these people have gone through, but how they are rebuilding their lives and finding their strength and their stability after this, you know, very terrible period of time. And I just think it's very, very beautifully written. The characters are so, so lovely. There is some romance in here, which was just really wholesome and beautiful and wonderful. And just the way that it showcases the simple life, or a simple life, because there are many forms of simple lives. And the way that literature can have such a great impact on a person. I just think it's a very, very good book. It's very short. It's not a big commitment by any means. I just loved it. Most of it is in the form of letters. I can't remember. Maybe all of it's in letters. For some reason I was thinking there was maybe like a portion that was not, but in fact I do think it is all in letters. Between Juliet and the people on the island, and between her and other people that she knows. And I just think it is beautiful and empowering because of these ideals that it shows and these concepts of, like I said, the beauty of living a simple life and resilience in the face of fear and grief and loss, and like I said, literature and the way that it creates connection between people and the effects that it can have on someone's life. It's just very, very good. I really, really enjoyed it. And so I do highly recommend, if you like historical fiction, if you like any of those themes, then I very highly recommend this one. Then moving to something that is quite different in tone, I have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I love this book so much. It is so good. I read it on the plane. Where was I going? Was it to Wyoming? It may have been on the plane to Wyoming. I can't remember. And I was reading it on the plane, and I was just like falling in love with it. Trying to like scribble down quotes and passages while on a plane is a little difficult because of how cramped you are, but I was determined because the writing in this is gorgeous. It is very, very, very beautiful prose, very literary sounding, like in that it is just the way that M.L. Rio uses words. Exquisite. But in this book, we follow a group of, seven college students who actually are in a conservatory, and they are learning or studying theater, specifically Shakespearean theater. And one of the main characters, Oliver, because this is a framed narrative, but we like jump back to the present timeline more than just at the beginning and end. We also do so in the middle as well. But we follow Oliver, who at the beginning of the story has actually just been released from prison for a murder that occurred, how many years ago was it? 10 years, yeah. That occurred 10 years. And the detective who was originally in charge of investigating this incident has come to meet with Oliver because Oliver has promised to tell him the truth now that Oliver has served his time and the detective is no longer an active duty officer. So Oliver is in this book telling the story of what really happened 10 years ago. And it is just so, so incredibly good. The atmosphere is beautiful. The old, sort of ancient feeling that you get from the conservatory and the misty, woods and the lake and the crackling fire in the library and going to classes. And these students are, quite a few of them, pretty pretentious. They all make some pretty bad choices in here. Like they're college students, right? They're young and they're making bad choices, although the choices that they're making are quite bad, involving things like relationships and moral dilemmas and just lots of bad choices are being made in here. But it is so beautifully written. I feel like the Shakespeare references alone make reading this book worth it if you are a fan of Shakespeare. The way that it mirrors Shakespearean tragedy in so many ways, the way that it incorporates those references, the way that these college kids are, so intertwined with one another to the point where they can't really separate their lives from one another's. They're so wound up in each other, and this tragedy that strikes and seeing the way that they all react and all of them trying to figure out what has happened and why it's happened and where we go from here and what do we do and how do we deal with this and how do we protect ourselves. And it's really, really, really good. And the atmosphere alone, I mean, like I said, is just incredible. And I just feel like I don't know. I don't really know how to talk about this book in detail, aside from what I've already said, just because I feel like it's just an experience. It is an experience that I honestly wish I could have again for the first time. I wish I could go back and reread this without knowing what was going to happen. And the way that it ends, I wish that there was more. I wish that M.L. Rio would give us a follow-up short story, novella, something, because I need a bit more closure for the ending. If you've read it, then you probably know what I'm talking about. But I did still love the end because of I'm not a big fan of open-ended stories. Let me just go ahead and say that. And this isn't open-ended in the way that you think it is, but it is open-ended in a certain way. Is that a spoiler? I don't think that's a spoiler. But the open-endedness here has implications that I very much enjoyed. So I don't know what I can say without spoiling this, but I love the theater aspects. I love the Shakespearean references. I love the environment, the atmosphere. The main character, Oliver, is just delightful, although he's not making very good choices often either. And the tragic parts of it, and the like slow descent that you see some of these characters go down into, like, just from being up high on top of the world and just slowly spiraling downward because of everything that they are dealing with and the choices they're making and what's going on in their lives. And you learn, it's like you unravel this mystery as you go. Okay, I think when my light has officially, nope, it's back. But you unravel the mystery as you go, and as you hear Oliver's rendition of it, you're learning about what's happening along with this detective, and it's very, very good. If you like kind of a more gothic, theater-based story with characters who are, in some cases, kind of self-destructing, but also have that found family, loyal to one another side to them, then If We Were Villains is the book for you. And then I have something that is a little different from all of my other choices so far in these favorites videos, and that is a children's book. This is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I have no idea if I said his name correctly, and I apologize. I'm very bad at pronouncing French. But I love The Little Prince so much. If you don't know, The Little Prince is about a little prince who lives on a little planet. And one day he goes on a journey because his rose has made him feel unloved. That's a weird sentence to say if you haven't read the book. But he goes on a journey and discovers what happens to adults when they grow up, and ends up meeting our narrator on Earth, as well as a host of other characters. And basically, this book is about so many things. It is about love and whimsy. And as far as love goes, what makes someone special to us, and the taming of another living thing with your love, and how love is what ties two people together and makes them matter to one another beyond simply the fact that they're alive, right? And also about being a child and the pain of growing up, but the ability or the necessity of maintaining an outlook of whimsy and magic on the world, and not allowing society's pressures and norms to push you down and turn you into something you're not simply because you are no longer a child. That's what The Little Prince is about. And it's also about grief and death and so many things all wrapped together in this little children's book. And it's gonna make me, like, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. It makes me cry every time I read it. There's also a really beautiful movie adaptation which does tell the story of the Little Prince, but it actually then has a lot of things that occur in the movie that are not at all part of the original story. because we also follow a little girl who through the story of the Little Prince, is learning things about her own life, and goes on her own journey. But it is a very beautiful movie. But I really, really, really love this story. It is heartbreaking and beautiful and inspiring and like life affirming in so many ways. And it also has the cutest little illustrations which the author himself created. Like, let me just show you. There's the Little Prince. And it's written as if the narrator of the book is the one who is making these drawings, but it's lovely and beautiful and wonderful and will make you cry. And everybody should read The Little Prince. Everyone should read it at any age, right? Like, very, very small children are probably not going to understand it, but like, read it to them their whole lives. Read it your whole life. It doesn't matter if you're an adult. This is a children's book in that children can read it, and it is appropriate for children, but children's literature does not mean that only children should read it. It just means that it is appropriate for children. But if it's appropriate for children, then it is also very much appropriate for adults. So everyone should read this. I don't care who you are. You should read The Little Prince. It doesn't take very long. It's very short. It has a lot more words than the average children's book of this size, but it's beautiful and incredible, and just it is a story that you can get more out of every time you read it, I think. So depending on where you are in your life and what you're going through. So highly recommend The Little Prince if you can't tell. All right, and then I suppose rather appropriately for autumn, we have another quite gothic sort of story, and that is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I love Neverwhere so much. The Marquis, he is Marquis, right? I'm not remembering that incorrectly. Yeah, the Marquis is one of my favorite characters in literature ever. I love him so much. He is such a delight. But in this story, we follow a guy named Richard who one day stops to help a girl he sees who has been injured. This girl is named Dor, and takes Richard with her into her world of like the underground under London. So this book, and Richard's life just changes from there, because he's just an ordinary guy with a fiance and a job, and suddenly he's involved in this magical place that nobody above ground even knows exists. And this is very much like, it is a fantasy. It also kind of makes me feel like it's got magical realism elements in it. I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty unsure about what magical realism actually is, as opposed to just fantasy literature. But this does take place in London, and it is just absolutely beautiful. It is very, very, like, has a lot of very gothic elements. I feel like that a lot of it takes place underground and in the dark, and basically with people who society has kind of made invisible, maybe quite literally in this book. But we see just a lot of the people who maybe society would consider undesirable, right? And who they don't really see. And we see in this story this society that they have formed for themselves, where they can live outside of the like prejudices and control of like the upper world of London. And it's so cool. So cool, this underground world and all these places that exist there. It kind of feels like, if you've read The Phantom of the Opera, those descriptions of the opera house and how it has like an entire lake under it and all of these things that just really feel like they shouldn't fit there. That's kind of the same feeling here, but on a much larger scale. All of these places, markets and bridges and all kinds of things that are just under London that clearly would not fit under London, but are there in this story. I love it. I ate it up. I read it actually in November, I think, for the first time when I read it, and it was just so fun to read in the fall. I highly recommend that you read it in the fall. And the villains in here are just absolutely despicable and really creepy. And the characters are just so interesting because they're so different from the types of characters you typically see, especially in a book that is set in a city like London. And also the world building and the like magic in this world, you just kind of have to accept it. Just don't think too hard about like the rules or like how does this work or how does this fit. Just accept it, and it's much more enjoyable that way. This particular edition also has the story How the Marquis Got His Coat Back, which I very much enjoyed because I love the Marquis. I love him so much. But it's just, and the writing and the prose are beautiful because, I mean, of course they are. And it's just so good. It's so good. I really love, like I said, the commentary on people who like kind of exist on the fringes of society and how those people are treated by like normal people. But again, it's done like in a fantastical way, and I think that it's very beautifully written, and it's nice and spooky at times, and I just really, really loved it. And then the last book that we're going to talk about today is One Door Away from Heaven by Dean Koontz. This is the only Dean Koontz book that I ever read. My copy is quite battered and warped on the spine, you can see. I inherited it from a teacher who was retiring when I was in middle school. And I don't know that she should have necessarily given this to me when I was in middle school, but she did. And I loved this. The ending of this book, I'm usually really good at predicting things that are going to happen in stories. I don't know if it's partly because I have consumed so many stories during my life, and partly because I'm just naturally good at that. But I'm pretty good at predicting things that are going to happen. Not every detail, but like, you know, figuring things out as the story goes. This one, the ending shocked me beyond belief. And that does not happen to me super often. So that was a fun experience. And again, it's been a while since I've read this, so I'm going to have to look at names. But we follow Michelina, who is like very, very kind of down on her luck. I can't remember if it's that she just got out of prison or I don't remember. But she is very cynical. She lives with her aunt. They are very poor. And Mickey is just very, very, like I said, cynical. She has a really gloomy outlook on life. Doesn't really see the good in much of anything, much less in other people. But then she meets a little girl named Leilani, I think. Isn't her name Leilani? Yes, Leilani. And Leilani is physically disabled, and she is living next door to Mickey. And Mickey and this little girl start to bond with each other. And then one day Leilani disappears, and Mickey has reason to believe that I can't remember if it's her dad or her stepdad. Yeah, I cannot remember if it's her dad or her stepdad, but Mickey has reason to believe that he has done something to Leilani because Leilani had a twin in the past and no longer does. I think they're twins. Are they twins? Or a sibling. I think they're twins. The little tiny details sometimes escape me, but I will never forget this book for as long as I live. So Mickey goes on this journey to try to find and save Leilani if she can. So that's our first perspective. We follow another perspective of a police officer who is investigating... Oh, I don't remember. Investigating something. Investigating a crime. Who ends up going on this journey of his own in this investigation. And then our third perspective, we're following a little boy who is on the run from someone who is trying to kill him, and he is no one with him except his dog, and they are on the run completely alone, and are trying to escape with their lives. And we follow these three perspectives, and they end up connecting with one another as the story goes on. And let me tell you, the ending, I'm serious, the ending of this book surprised me more than any ending of any story ever has surprised me. But in a way that, like, it wasn't one of those things where you're like, this is dumb, or this shouldn't have happened, or no. Once it happens, you can't see the story any other way. And it's just, it's so good. It's so good. I don't normally like stories with characters that are so cynical and so gloomy as far as the way they see the world, and that have like so little like positive outlook. But I love this book so much. It hooked me in. And again, I read it when I was in middle school. And a lot of the stuff in here is very inappropriate for a middle schooler. But it is just so incredibly addictive. You have to know what happens to these characters. You have to know what's going on. And I just devoured this book. I feel like I'm doing a really bad job today of describing these books and selling them to you, but I'm really tired, so I apologize. It's incredible. It's incredible. This sun-baked feeling it has, this intense chase with this little boy and his dog, right alongside this like rescue mission and this investigation. And it's just three very different perspectives and three very different feelings of anxiety that you're having as you're following them. But it's so good. And as they start to come together and you start to see these threads wrap around each other and form this cohesive story, it's so good. So good. I have never seen another copy of this book ever, except I recommended it to a coworker several years ago at a school where I was teaching. I was filling in for a year-long position, and she loved to read, so I recommended this to her, and she looked for a copy, couldn't find one, and then went to visit her daughter out of state and ended up finding a single copy in an airport bookstore. And she texted me and was like, I found a copy and I bought it and I'm gonna read it. And it was just such a cool feeling because I've literally never ever seen anyone else read it. And then recently, when my brother and his girlfriend were apartment hunting, my mom and I went up to join them and help them. And one of the offices at the apartments had a copy of this, a hardcover, on the bookcase. Unfortunately, the guy who was working there, they weren't his. He said that they'd actually been there since he got the job. But I recommended it to him. I don't know if he'll read it, but it's so good. It's so good if you like a good kind of thrillery mystery. I wouldn't really classify it as a thriller, but a mystery with some thriller elements to it. There you go. And that's not something I typically read. I'm not a thriller fan, but, and again, I wouldn't classify this one as a thriller. I know Dean Koontz, I think, writes thrillers. I don't really think this one counts as one, but it definitely has some of those elements to it, in like the way the story is told and like the just feelings you get from it. It's definitely not a cozy mystery, but it is so good. It is so good. I highly recommend it. Here you go. Don't read it to your middle schooler though, because again, I feel like probably not the best, most appropriate material. Alright, so those are the next 5 books on my favorite standalone books of all time list. I hope that you guys are enjoying these videos. I think they're really fun to make, although today I'm so exhausted and so scatterbrained, I really don't know how well I did at talking about them at all. I guess I'll find out when I'm editing. Future me will find out and will probably be a little disappointed in myself. Current self for me, past self for her. But anyway, I would love to hear some books that are on your favorites list, or if you have read any of these and you have thoughts, or If you're looking forward to reading any of these now that I've read them, or if you have any books to recommend to me based off of the ones on this list, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Just as always, please keep all comments spoiler free. And if you would like to leave an emoji, let's do a black cat, because I've got a lot of black cats on today. So we'll just do a black cat emoji if you'd like to leave it with your comment, or if you want to let me know you were here but you don't really have anything to say, you can put some black cats down there in honor of Thackeray Binks and Gigi and whoever this is on my earrings. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day or wonderful night wherever you are, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!
Ooh, Ezio. Oh, Ezio. You can't catch me. I'm a gingerbread bee. Can you get it? Ooh, Ezio. Oh, Ezio is on it tonight. He is on it tonight. Look at that boy. Look at that laser sharp focus. He is focused on this bee. Yes, he is. Here, Ash, you want to get it? Come on, Ash.